Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon. Young and restless Sharon rats out co-star for stealing her best lines, and every time he forgets he's done it. All products and services featured are independently chosen by editors. However, soaps.com may receive a commission on orders placed through its retail links, and the retailer may receive certain auditable data for accounting purposes. We all likely have that someone in our lives who only laughs if there's a really good reason to. Not just at any simple joke but something really funny, and sometimes it catches us off guard. Why? Because they are that person who makes everyone else laugh, but when it comes to getting them to do the same, well, we have to work a little harder to pull it off. The Young and the Restless's Sharon knows someone like that, and after working with Joshua Morrow, Nick, for almost 30 years, nothing makes her happier than when she can get a chuckle out of her co-star. The actress recently chatted with Soap Opera Digest about the fun they have behind the scenes, and stated, "I love when I can make him laugh." Case talked about how funny Morrow is and further explained, "He's so funny that you think, oh, it's probably hard to make someone like that laugh, and maybe it is in some regards. It's not like he's heavy-hearted, because he's not, but with Josh, you've got to be really funny for him to laugh." And when she manages to do so much so that he bursts out laughing, Case feels as though she accomplished a big feat and thinks, "Wow, hey, I'm funny." I take it as a compliment, and you know what? Over the years he has stolen some of my lines and the funny stuff that I make up, and uses them, and every time he forgets that he's stolen from me. So the moral of the story is, even for a funny guy like Morrow, there's always someone who can make him laugh and even tell him something funny enough that he can use it to make the next guy snicker. Bravo to Case. Sharon stood in the doorway of the dimly lit dressing room, her arms crossed and her lips pressed into a thin line. The faint hum of the studio's air conditioning did little to alleviate the tension that crackled in the air. Her co-star James was seated at the vanity, adjusting his tie in the mirror. He looked up, catching her steely gaze in the reflection. "Something on your mind, Sharon?" he asked nonchalantly, though the quiver in his voice betrayed his unease. "Yeah, James, something is on my mind," Sharon replied, stepping into the room. "We need to talk about you stealing my lines." James turned around, feigning innocence. "Stealing your lines? What are you talking about?" Sharon let out a frustrated sigh. "Don't play dumb, James. You've been doing it for weeks now. Every time we have a scene together, you somehow end up saying my best lines, and then you conveniently forget that you did it." James' eyes widened with mock surprise. "I had no idea. Are you sure you're not just misremembering?" Sharon's patience was wearing thin. "I've been in this industry long enough to know when someone's trying to upstage me, and trust me, it's not just me who's noticed. The crew, the writers, they all see what you're doing." James stood up, trying to tower over her. "Maybe you're just losing your touch, Sharon. Maybe your lines aren't as memorable as you think they are." Sharon took a step closer, her eyes never leaving his. "This isn't about ego, James. It's about professionalism. We all work hard to bring these characters to life, and what you're doing is disrespectful to everyone involved." James scoffed, turning his back to her. "You know what, Sharon? Maybe if you were better at delivering your lines, I wouldn't feel the need to borrow them." That was the last straw. Sharon's hand flew out, grabbing James' shoulder and spinning him around to face her. "I've had enough of your excuses. If you think you can keep getting away with this, you're sorely mistaken. I'm going to the producers and we'll see how they feel about your little habit." James' confident facade cracked for a moment, but he quickly recovered. "Go ahead, Sharon. See if I care. You're just making a mountain out of a molehill." Sharon shook her head, her resolve unwavering. "We'll see about that." With that, she turned on her heel and marched out of the dressing room, her heart pounding with a mix of anger and determination. The next day, the tension on set was palpable. Word had spread quickly about the confrontation, and the cast and crew watched with bated breath as Sharon approached the producer's office. She took a deep breath before knocking on the door. "Come in," came the voice from inside. Sharon pushed the door open and stepped inside, where the show's head producer, Margaret, sat behind her desk. Margaret looked up, her expression curious. "Sharon, what can I do for you?" she asked. Sharon closed the door behind her and took a seat. "Margaret, we need to talk about James. He's been stealing my lines during our scenes, and it's becoming a serious problem." Margaret's eyebrows shot up. "Stealing your lines? That's a serious accusation, Sharon. Are you sure?" "I've been keeping track," Sharon said, pulling out a small notebook from her bag. "Every time it happens, I write it down. Dates, scenes, everything." Margaret took the notebook and skimmed through it, her expression growing more serious with each passing second. "This is quite thorough. Why didn't you come to me sooner?" "I wanted to handle it myself," Sharon admitted, "but it's gotten to the point where I can't ignore it anymore. It's affecting my performance and it's unfair to everyone else." Margaret nodded thoughtfully. "Thank you for bringing this to my attention, Sharon. I'll have a word with James and see what we can do to resolve this." Sharon felt a wave of relief wash over her. "Thank you, Margaret. I just want things to go back to normal." Margaret offered a reassuring smile. "We'll sort it out. In the meantime, try not to let it get to you. You're a professional and we all know how talented you are." Sharon left the office feeling lighter, but she knew the battle wasn't over yet. James was a cunning actor, and she had no doubt he would try to weasel his way out of this. She was determined to see it through, no matter what. Later that day, during a break in filming, Sharon spotted James talking to one of the writers. She couldn't hear what they were saying, but she could tell from James' animated gestures that he was trying to spin the situation in his favor. Sharon decided to confront him once more, this time in front of everyone. "Hey James," she called out, walking over to him. "Got a minute?" James turned to her, a smirk playing on his lips. "What is it now, Sharon?" "I just wanted to clear the air," she said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "Since you seem to think it's okay to steal my lines, I thought we could go over the script together and make sure there are no misunderstandings." The writer, sensing the brewing storm, stepped back slightly. James' smirk faltered. "I don't think that's necessary, Sharon." "Oh, but I do," she insisted. "In fact, why don't we have a read-through with everyone here? That way, there won't be any forgetting who says what." The other actors and crew members began to gather around, sensing the drama unfolding. James' face turned red with embarrassment. "This is ridiculous." "Is it?" Sharon challenged. "Or are you just afraid everyone will see what you've been doing?" Margaret approached the scene, her arms crossed. "Is there a problem here?" "Just clearing up a little misunderstanding," Sharon said, not breaking eye contact with James. "James and I were about to have a read-through to make sure we're both on the same page." Margaret looked between the two of them, her gaze finally settling on James. "I think that's a great idea. Let's go ahead and do that." James had no choice but to comply. As they read through the script, it became painfully obvious to everyone how often James had been borrowing Sharon's lines. By the end of the session, there was no doubt left in anyone's mind about what had been happening. Margaret addressed the group, her tone firm. "From now on, we'll be paying extra attention during rehearsals. Any more incidents like this and there will be consequences." James' face was a mask of fury and humiliation, but he said nothing. Sharon felt a surge of vindication. She had stood her ground and justice had been served. As the cast and crew dispersed, Sharon caught James' eye. He glared at her, but she simply smiled. "Every time you forget, James, just remember, I'll be watching." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving him to stew in his defeat. It wasn't just about the lines anymore, it was about respect. And Sharon had made it clear that she would settle for nothing less.